solvency. Very quickly on other mandates. One concerns the ESRB, which has received a mandate to see whether there are macroprudential approaches to prevent the emergence and the accumulation of NPLs at a later stage. The Commission is to consider prudential backstops, that is, the deduction of NPLs from the capital if provisioning is not sufficient. This is already included in the second pillar regulations. There was a question before on IFRS 9. Which can be a favorable impact on larger amounts. The prudential backstop could be less needed once the IFRS 9 are in force. And then the mandate to extend the guidance to banks of non-performing loans to less significant institutions. We have to coordinate this to avoid duplications and avoiding different directives. So we are in coordination. We're working with them to coordinate our work. Very rapidly, I would like to close with a few ideas on the national blueprint. We have proposed, suggested a European solution. We felt that since we have this path has been chosen, it should not be just an empty box, but it has to be a significant blueprint. We have to understand the entry criteria to the blueprint, the role of the precautionary recap, whether this transfer has to be mandatory or not for the participating bank. The state aid implication also is important. The regulations has been used only occasionally, but the rules should be the same and enforced on everyone in a rapid way without having to wait months to get to a solution, and then data requirements, due diligence, etc. The pricing. From the operating point of view, conflicts of interest should be avoided for specific portfolios. And then the supervision, whether the AMC should have a banking license or whether it should not be a bank to be freer in its operation with less capital requirements in comparison to a bank. And then the exit criteria from the AMC. By speaking with the people of the previous AMC, having a sunset clause, a clear timeline, is not a positive factor because the risk is to sell towards the end of the mandate. But without a sunset clause, it is not easy to have a clear plan for the AMC. It is difficult to track its progress and inefficiency in NPL management. I'm the same person that was here last year. I'm here to spoil your game. We like this in Banca Ifis. So just a question. Do you think that what has been done in Italy from the European point of view with the GACS, the Atlante Fund initiative, etc., was useful? This is a difficult question. The answer I can give is since there has been a reduction in NPLs, it means that the impact has been good. And then we have to make a distinction between structural measure or one-off measures. We require more time to understand what will take place in the future. So the AMC needs a bank guarantee or not? For the time being, just to clarify, these are my personal thought, not even the EBA's, but they are part of the discussion we are making with the European Central Bank. After listening to the existing AMC, it is not a good idea to give them a banking license for a series of reasons, because they have a series of requirements in terms of reporting, and the structure would become too cumbersome. But this may be a national decision. Still, it is not very clear to me whether it is useful what we've done in Italy. If with GACS and Atlante, well, that means, but I was very clever in answering. But Greenspan said so. If you think I've been clear, you misunderstood me. I don't want to be compared to Greenspan. So before the next question comes, I would like to say that a key element is how to guarantee that taxpayers are not the ones who are to pay the highest bill. We know that there are accounting problems for asset recognition at a certain point, but this is one of the topics that have to be studied and investigated further to understand whether banks, once acceding to an AMC, just passes on the final bill to the taxpayers, and then see how to close the AMC down. We have comments by the panel here. We are discussing the GACS here. Yes. So the information is fundamental. We have seen the lemons market, the gap between bid and ask. You had a merger in BPM. What did you do on the occasion of the merger? I'm very happy of having seen during Dr. Fell's presentation some reflections on the importance of information transparency, the situation of the various banks. So this is something we try to do from the outset. We very much aimed at reducing any ignorance on sales when proposing our NPLs to the market operators. We organized ourselves to collect data, and we shared them immediately to anyone interested. We feel that sometimes analysis and evaluation of the NPL overhang suffer from this generalization, because sometimes comparisons are made without considering the underlying situation or the presence of bad loans, etc. I'm sure that the audience here can have several examples that could be made. So I think that we should improve some of the benchmarks by recalibrating things in terms of information reporting. the information reporting was not always well targeted. The supervisory authorities receive the data, but some aspects are omitted. There is no difference between bad loans and unlikely to pay. I think a lot of progress has been made. This information transparency is fundamental to understand what we have in our budgets. We should be patient to better understand the various contexts and calibrate our benchmarking activities to the specificities of these contexts. Giacomo, what is your opinion? Eduardo, can you tell us what you think of selling in the next 1 year and a half, and why the Rainbow operation has been so successful? My son once asked me, how children born and what do kangaroos eat? And I answered the second question and not the first one. My son said the same. You have to answer both questions, but I am your son. Rainbow is a successful operation. Kangaroos eat grass, by the way. Rainbow was successful because it was a way to fill a market gap. After the old securitization operations, secured transactions were not available in the Italian market. So we had the courage of meeting the requirements of that demand by providing a clear portfolio, a portfolio that was easy to read. After a merger, it would have been a nightmare to sell 3,000 or 4,000 positions in a granular portfolio. We started off with a 40-position portfolio. We described the portfolio to all investors. We answered all questions. So we didn't want to have any ignorance around us. And by using a good team, we had a very well-protected process, a fair process, aiming at transparency. And this has been a good move on our part. And what about your budget? We included this in the 6-monthly budget, and the LAGD on 40 positions is not bad. But you released 280 million last year. We are rather shy and reserved, and we've carried out a lot of small deals this year, low profile. Our NPL leveraging objectives are perhaps not in line with the most important sellers on the market who sell significant volumes. So, to follow what Eduardo has said, the transparency of data has been fundamental. We invested a lot on that, and starting from there, not only the buyer's world has grown a lot, the primary market has had its own evolution, like we've seen we saw 1 hour ago. but also the banking system. We should not forget that banks are the main servicers on the markets, and they are also the originators. So the NPL volumes are managed at an advanced stage. We started in 2012 with the main stock of the group of 7,500 million. We had a lot of competence, a lot of experience acquired over the years, but we found that the process was not developed enough. Our dealers managed credits of different sizes, different volumes. So we segmented our portfolio, we specialized the dealers, we defined the collection budget by dealer with the incentives, and the results have been incredible. In 1 year, there was a 36% increase in collections with a 10% increase in volumes. By doing some simple things and by putting order in our internal management of credit collection, we achieved a fourfold increase. The NPL guidelines issued by the regulators gave the advantage of pushing the market towards this direction. The banks can no longer mismanage the collection actions.